Hey, Noah Ostroff here. And today I'm here to talk about inflation. And today I want to simplify it for you so you actually understand what it really means. So I'm going to try to break it down for you in the most simple terms that I can and how it relates to you so you understand what I'm talking about. So in 2003, when I graduated college, my first job out of college, I was making about $47,000 per year. So at the time, that was probably an average or maybe slightly above average salary for somebody that was just graduating college at the time. So to put that into perspective, today, in order to have that same buying power or that same salary equivalent of $47,000, today, 19 years later, I would need to be making $75,000 a year, okay, compared to 47,000. Because since 2003, the US dollar had an average inflation rate of about 2.47% per year. So that means that today's prices are 1.59 times higher than the average prices since 2003, 1.59 times higher since 2003. So a dollar today only buys you about 63% of what it could buy you in 2003. So does that make sense so far? All right. So now let's talk about more recently. Let's look at $100,000 in 2019. So right before the pandemic started. So if you were making $100,000 in 2019, right before the pandemic started, compared to today, you would need to be making about $114,000 today, because over the last 3 years, the US dollar had an average inflation rate of 4.57%, meaning cumulatively, there was a 14% price increase over the last 3 years, since 2019 through 2022 through today. So that means today's prices are 1.14 times higher than the average since 2019. So a dollar today only buys you about 87% of what it could buy you in 2019. So the inflation rate in 2019, just to kind of give you a comparison, inflation rate in 2019 was 1.76%. The current inflation rate compared to just last year was 8.58%. So if that number holds true, $100,000 today will be equivalent to about $108,000 next year. So for example, if you started with $100,000 in 2019, right before the pandemic started, you would need to end with $114,000 today to, quote, adjust for inflation or beat inflation, right? That $100,000 to have it basically be able to buy you the same amount that it could buy you today. So not every city is the same, right? I'm giving you the averages for the country, but not every city is the same. So in Tampa, the average inflation over the last 3 years was about 4.25%, or it was 8.69% cumulatively. In Philadelphia, the average inflation over the last 3 years was about 3.21%, or about 9.94% cumulatively over the last 3 years. So you're definitely feeling prices going up on a lot of the everyday items that you buy. We hear a lot of people talking about it. So I'm going to give you a couple examples of some of the everyday items. You know, we feel the difference, but here's actually why there's such a difference. So gas prices over the last 3 years have increased 100%, 100% over the last 3 years, and they're still climbing. Bread has increased 27%. Milk has increased 72% in the last 3 years. A carton of eggs has increased 85%. A pound of chicken has increased 24%. Electricity has increased 7%. And those are just your everyday items. These are the items that you're probably buying every single week to feed yourself or to feed your family. But if I'm going to break this down in terms of categories, other things that are not just your everyday items, maybe some more, luxury items, if you will, food and beverage. So you're going out to restaurants or just everyday food and beverage. That's increased 14% in the last 3 years. Housing has increased 10% in the last 3 years. And that's national averages. Every city is a little bit different. Some cities are way higher than that in the last 3 years. And a 10% adjustment in housing in just 3 years, that's a pretty big jump. Transportation. So, airplanes, buses, any kind of transportation that you have, trains, that's increased 25%. So if you do a lot of flying, you're really feeling the prices of flights going up a lot in the last 3 years. Medical care has increased 8.21% in the last 3 years. And the list goes on. Those are just some of the main categories. So to put inflation in perspective, to wrap this up for you, if you theoretically invested $100,000 in the stock market or any investment, if you invested $100,000 in 2019, your investment theoretically would be nominally, so I say nominally, worth about $169,000 in 2022. That's a return on investment of 69%. And those numbers are not inflation adjusted. I'm just giving you the nominal straight up numbers. So that is to give you a comparison of what inflation means in terms of if that were just a return on investment type of a number. So hopefully that helps. Next time somebody wants to talk about inflation with you, hopefully you'll have a better understanding of what it all means, how it all affects you. Now you can be a little bit more knowledgeable and really understand what it's all about. Hope you enjoyed. If you want to contact me, you know how to reach me.